Great evening, everyone. Great evening, and welcome to another episode of Releasing My Secret, the podcast where we bring people on and they amplify their voice one story at a time. This is certified trauma recovery coach Santrisa, your host, and I absolutely love coming on here every week and being able to bring people in so that we can share or they can share their story. We can have conversation and just kind of take it from there. But y'all know, I say this the about 11, 12, I probably said it was 11 weeks last week, right? About the 11th or 12th, 13th, it's going around that time kind of weeks that I've been saying it, but y'all not get chatty, right? And just kind of go off on a tangent. And so I'm gonna stop talking and I'm gonna introduce my phenomenal guest that I know personally. And I'm going to allow for her to introduce herself. And I want to thank you, Lydia, for coming on the show. Please introduce yourself and tell our audience and listeners about you.
Well, good evening, Santrisa, and to your wonderful guest. My name is Lydia Peart, and it is an honor and a privilege to be a part of this discussion on tonight. How can I identify myself? A woman that wears many hats, but I am the wife of Alexander Peart, my loving husband, he's just a whole nother, he's a series, yeah, the series of him, but I am the wife of Alexander. I am the mother of 4 adult children. I am the grandmother of 9 wonderful, phenomenal grandchildren. And I am a woman of faith. I serve in ministry. I'm also a administrator of early childhood and an advocate for children and families. I am quite active in the community as an advocate and a stakeholder. So I'm also an owner of a business consulting company entitled LP Consulting. And it really is about empowering entrepreneurs and empowering and giving skill set to those that are returning or want to enhance or expand their business. So it's many facets and layers to me, but that's just a little capsule of what I got going on in these days, I would say in my current days.
Thank you so much for coming on, and you do a lot. You got a lot of hats. That was a lot. I think a lot of people do though, right? And so
absolutely,
what got me going was, and what I pondered upon is when you said, how do I identify myself? Right. Mm-hmm. And I say that because I think people lose their identity. You know, we do so much that they lose their identity. I say to my kids all the time, like, before I held the title mom, I was Santrisa. Before I was auntie, before I was anything else, I came out as an individual. And I think a lot of times people get so caught up in everything that they do, they lose their self, right?
Well, that's really interesting that you would say that, because it's so true. A lot of times we identify by what we do. And so what happens is when things change, life, natural situations, I keep saying we just came out, but we are turning a page on this pandemic. And so we're not out, but we are turning a page. But when you identify with what you do, and then something happens outside of that to stop what you do, so do you lose your identity? No, that's exactly what you just said. I am that regardless. I am Lydia. I am who God called me to be, right? I am, if I could say anything, and even when I ponder that, I'm a woman first, right? I'm a girl. I'm that girl. A lot of times when people will say, I'll speak in the third person and I'll say, I'm her, right? I'm her. I'm your girl. I'm her. Because I will either resonate or I can understand where they're coming from. So though life in my certain secular position allows me to go into different arenas, and I get to go into the boardroom, and I'm in places where my voice is, I've had to earn respect, but I'm there to make in a decision making capacity. I understand, and I never lose sight that I'm a woman in the room. And that means something because I don't ever want to come off like, I'm just too, I'm so female, I'm so weak, I'm so, I can't. No, I want to let them know I don't want to be a man. I enjoy being female. Like, I like being a girl. And that has nothing to do with someone who has challenges on their identity. I'm saying for me personally, I don't want to take on masculine ways. Though I like being a girl, and I use what I've been given to accomplish much and still remain a woman, you know? And so I like to identify myself as a strong African American woman, a woman. Yes, I have opinions, right? Yes, I have, I won't say, I won't say that I have disagreements, but I may have questions on some things. And that's okay. Because with that, the femininity, and being a woman and being able to stand up and just say that, I also know how to study to be quiet, right? And just observe and use those women abilities to do some things. And I say that because this is who I am now. There was a time where I thought I had to not identify as a woman because I didn't want them to see me as a woman, because I thought that would mean I was a weaker vessel. And I had to come on and be very aggressive, which I equated to being assertive, but it was being aggressive. And I had to be very rough with my voice, and I had to be very confrontational just to get things done. But I've learned to be comfortable in my spot, be a woman, be classy, speak, enunciate my words, speak with a tone that's not offensive, but get the job done. Yeah.
That's so interesting that you said that's why you was talking. And I was sitting there thinking, right? And I'm like, I think we do that when we allow situations to kind of shape us. And then we allow for that shaping, we take on the persona of that shaping, right? We, for instance, so I'm a trauma recovery coach, so I can only speak from my stance. And so we go through a trauma and we allow for it to mold us, right? Because we're dealing with a lot in the midst of that, right? And then that's how we begin to identify as, because we don't address the layers of things that caused for us to be like that, to take us back to how we originally was, if that makes sense. So we go through, I'm sweet as pie. People are like, oh girl, what happened to you? You're so mean. What happened to you? Where's your life at? And so a lot of times, and it's really going back to identity, right? Because a lot of times we allow for situations to permanently damage or alter who we are authentically called to be.
And so me being a lover of words, I'm hearing authentic, and that just sparks me up. So the first thing we have to understand or accept who we are, right? Because when I use the word identify, so when I really find out who I am, I have to accept that and be okay with who I am, whether it be with all the imperfections, all the flaws, all the things that need to be corrected and worked on, right? But that's who I am in real time. And so that's my authentic self. And so now, once I have accepted that that's who I am, right? And I like what you said, because it's so true. We go through these traumas, and then we have to, even when we try to not show that, I've been through something, right? Our speech betrays us, right? Something, our mannerism, it comes out and others notice it. And then we spend a lot of time trying to convince ourselves and everybody else around us that we're okay. But in reality, we're not.
We're not.
And sometimes it's going to take us time to recover. Even when you have a medical procedure, right? They take you to the recovery room, like, you can't just have this cut on you or this incision or this process or this procedure and just get up. I mean, I know some people do, but you need to take 5 and recover. And it's okay. Like, I'm not good right now, but this is my authentic self. This is who I am. And listen, I'm saying it like it's a light thing, but it's not. But if we could get there, right? If I could get there and just be okay, then I'm not okay. And guess what? Everybody knows, because that takes time, like, to show people, and what's that, our vulnerability, show I was just speaking earlier, going back to when I was saying that I spent years trying not to show myself weak, like, because I felt, if I'm weak, or if I show I'm weak, then they're gonna, then they're gonna use that against me. So they can never see me weak. And I think that's also part of your growing up, things that you heard, like never let them see you sweat, don't let them see you cry, and that kind of suck it up, that kind of stuff. But
them things mess people up. I think that's it, and it has. It messed up a lot of people, and it's sad to say, even on this journey of meeting people and speaking to people, you hear of a lot of older people who are so still bitter.
Absolutely.
Inside.
Absolutely.
They're still bitter. They're still mad.
Absolutely.
People be like, my grandmother don't play.
But if you ever really listen with what and if I could think of one thing, because there's many, but one of the things that generations before me, and I could just being around my grandmother and just a little bit of my great grandmother, and they used to say angry Black women, right? But, or, whatever, the things that they said and did, and how they just, shared their experiences, but you could just tell there was a lot of hurt, a lot of bitter, but their voices were muted. Right? And so they just went along with that. So a lot of stuff was never said. It was internalized. And just like we said, if it never gets out, if it's never voiced, if it's never, the secret is never released, right? Then they go to their grave with that. And then but while they're still alive, and it can be so impressionable to those that's coming behind, the only thing we saw a mirrored was bitterness, hurt, regret, in some cases, remorse, unforgiveness, and we didn't see, and I'm only speaking from my experience, I can't speak for everyone, but I didn't see, and I just have to be honest, I didn't see a lot of forgiveness. Well, I saw a lot of grudges, right? I saw a lot of separation. Like, I was speaking to someone earlier today talking about going years not speaking with loved ones and being okay with it, but that was just the norm, of not willing to forgive and stuff. And so we didn't see it modeled before us. So we didn't, even though we felt or saw a need to want to do it, we just didn't see it, and didn't really understood or appreciate the power of that. So I could say the muting of the voice was something very, very instrumental in a lot of my older parent, relatives, just my experience with them.
Yeah, I think that the muting of the voices, the culture, just down throughout the years, and not even just in the African American community, Just
Mm-hmm.
overall, and it goes back, I believe, to like the women's empowerment back then when a woman wasn't supposed to say nothing, and you keep quiet and you obey your husband, and you kind of take what they do. And then I think it just got all discombobulated. Now, this is just my standpoint because, looking at history and the things that will kind of shape it, right? And so you
Mm-hmm.
have that already because you're a woman, right? But then you turn around and then you have how scripture is perceived a lot of times, right? So then you
Exactly.
have people saying a woman's supposed to be quiet and silent. And so you have all these things. And so even though, so somebody may be watching it, but like, no, my grandmother prayed all the time. And I believe she probably did. Don't get me wrong, right? But there are some things that I believe, me personally, Santrisa, believe. Some things require some counseling. And
So
that's
let
just
me
me.
so let me go there. I didn't even think I would say this, but when you said that, I thought of something. My grandmother, who I look up to, everyone knows that I talk about my missionary grandmother,
Mm-hmm.
missionary Mary Ruffin, all right, and anointed vessel, a gift to the body, evangelist extraordinaire, showed me street witnessing, and I saw powerful miracles and so many testimonies. But had, I watched her do all that, but she did not have a healthy relationship with my grandfather. And I watched her walk in power, a woman of prayer, a woman that consecrated. She'd go out of consecrate and go back in. But my grandfather was um, a womanizer, right? All other kinds of stuff. And the hurt, it was hurt. I could see now, I'm older now, I could see that the only thing that she could do was to even deal with that. She couldn't deal with people just in a social way. When she dealt with them, it was just a scripture, prayer, but not, hi, how are you? How's your day? Because that was hurtful. If they even equated her with him and the lifestyle, it was hurtful. It was an embarrassment. And I watched that from close view coming up. And it had a lot to do with not able to release, those true feelings, you know, because over here you are strong and powerful, but everything else is hurtful, you know, and years of that. And I never looked at it. We just made me look at it just now. But here's another person. We, of course, my generation, even if we saw it, we could never say it, right? You know, um, we couldn't say, so why you don't talk to him? Why does he sleep in a separate room? Like we could never say that, but that's the reality. That's absolutely what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and she believed that God would, would turn things around, but it was just her life. And if the and that's very that weighs upon a person's, you know, their entire persona, right? Um, think about if they had to counsel someone else, you know, here you are in ministry, but look what you're living. And you would have to share with someone, stay there, stay in there, stay in that abuse situation, stay in that, deal with infidelity, or whatever the conversation would have been. Um, but you're sharing from a hurtful space, right?
And I think that's what happens now. And so I think that, and I always say that God gave me releasing my secret because I believe that it's so many people with those secrets. We carry them, not really knowing. I mean, and I can say it was times where at a point in time in ministry, I would come to church and be like, I don't even really want to be here, but it's better than being home. right? It's
Mhm,
better than
mhm.
dealing with what I have to deal with at home. But how can I minister and have y'all come into the presence of God and I don't even want to be there right now,
See,
right? Because I want to be somewhere out of the state because I'm hurting,
right,
right? And
right.
so, and it's hard to express that sometimes from a place of where you're scared people will judge you. You're scared, and like you said, it's when we come under attack, we get quiet. A lot of times we don't like to talk about it. And I
Mhm.
believe the enemy plays on that because if we start talking, everything in the Bible tells you to make exclamations, declarations, open up your mouth or whatever. Because if you open up your mouth, freedom's going to come because you're letting it out. Right.
Right,
And so when you
right.
hold on to it, you're holding on its bondages, heaviness, its oppression, it's all this stuff you're holding on to.
Exactly,
But when you
exactly.
start releasing, the freedom that will come from it is just like, wow. When I started talking, when I opened up my mouth and I first told about my life story and things that happened to me, it just took off because the freedom that came from releasing the secret, releasing the emotion. And so I say that because when we were talking about identity and we was talking about, I know people who literally say, girl, I remember I used to be so outgoing. I used to be so this, I used to be so that. And they allow for life to quiet them in areas to where they no longer feel that they can be like that. And they put it on, I was betrayed, I was hurt, I was this, I was that. And I get it. I wholeheartedly understand that. But it comes a time when you have to get it out, right?
Absolutely,
You have to get it
absolutely.
out because you can't hide always. So we take the example from Adam and Eve, right? When they sinned and something happened, I'm calling trauma because that's really what it was. It was kind of it was a traumatic experience when you go from the presence of God all the time, you're hearing
Uh-huh,
God's voice, and then
uh-huh.
you do something that you shouldn't have done. And I'm not saying that every trauma is like that, right? Because we don't always necessarily do things that shouldn't have been done, right? But
Right.
I'm
Some
saying for
things were
them,
done to us.
yeah,
Exactly.
what I'm saying is that something happened that disturbed what was their normalcy. And the first thing they did was they hid. They didn't just open up and say, hey, God, listen, I messed up and like I'm naked.
Hmm.
They didn't say that. And so we as a humankind, we
It's
take
human
that.
nature.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's human nature to hide, no matter what it is. We just hide, right? What I think it was David. He hid his face. Somebody hid their face. Listen, somebody hid their face, right? Because that's what happens. We just hide. We be like, we act like God can't find us under a child. I think that's why he had the scripture penned and inspired it. That said, if you make your bed in hell, I will still be there, right?
Because we
Because
would
he's
hide
trying to,
there too. I
yeah,
don't know who would want to hide in hell, but yeah.
yeah, right. And it's just telling us that we can't hide, right? And
No
so
matter where we
he,
go.
no matter where we go, and he knows. He always tells us he knows, right? He knows before we pray about something. He knows before we go through something. He knows what we're going to go through because he's an all-knowing God, right? And so because he knows, we can. You don't even have to talk to a person. You could confide in him and tell
Right.
him
Right.
because God, I need to get this off my chest because I'm
Right.
losing who I am because of the
Right.
offense that happened. Right.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so people, it's hard sometimes. Right. I always say it's hard. It's hard sometimes. I don't really want to talk about it.
So that's and so let's talk, let's go there because the vulnerability, right? Um, so when I think of that, I certainly personalize it. Um, it's a sense of losing control. Because you said like um once you were understood or once you just opened your mouth and really didn't think about what was going to happen after you said what you said, but the freedom that comes with that,
Yeah.
right? Now it just can't stop there because then once this dam is broke, right? And once this floodgate opens up, then you begin to understand the power of that, and then you understand or you need to acquire wisdom to when to be able to say all these things, right? And when it will do the best. Because I always say, so am I sharing this? What's the purpose? What we supposed, what's the takeaway, right? Because again, I really believe in, what we go through or what we have experienced. Another caveat of releasing it is that's going to help somebody. Even though we went through all those years for somebody to get free in 40 minutes of me sharing, it's necessary to release it. You said it's not often easy because because in that split second, they're already overthinking it. Now, if I tell them this little bit, how are they going to look at me? If I tell them this, well, they will still want me to be around. We talking about before about human nature, right? We like community. We like people to want us to be around and those kinds of things. And so we always processing all that. But once you open up and release, you have no control of it anymore, right? You can't say, well, I only want these 3 people over here to hear it, but them 2 people over there, yeah, I don't want, no, everyone gets to hear it and experience it whichever way it falls, right? And then let it take life for what it is, because our words have power. So we have to be able to be okay with that. I have to, I go back to something you said to me, and I start thinking about it. It wasn't just you, but you were focusing on it at one point, talking about self-care. When you try, because I don't know if we were conditioned or what we heard, again, going back, our frame of reference, but we got to care about ourselves, because if I do self-care, right, if I get me together, that takes away me trying to get you together, right, or try to advise you, but I'm getting myself together. And then I have to appreciate that I got to be mentally good, emotionally good, physically good.
You have to find balance. You
I
have to
have to
find,
get a balance to
you
be
have to
able
find balance.
because once I start releasing and really understand what I've really been through, it's going to take its toll. So I got to work on me.
And let me just interject and say,
absolutely.
When you release, because I was talking about releasing it to the Lord,
Right.
If you couldn't find anybody to trust to release it to, but just to get it out, right?
Right.
What I wanted to say was, it's not only when you release, because some people don't release, they lash out.
Okay.
Right? And so when you say, what's the purpose behind it? Because you have to, they always say, think before you speak, right? Because if your purpose is, I'm hurt and I'm going to get this out, and if she's hurt, it don't matter as long as I get it out, then what's the real purpose behind it? No healing is really going to take place, right? And so you have to use wisdom in regards to getting it out. And I would say, if you're not at a calm to where you could vocalize what it is exactly that you need to get out, write it out. Because you don't want to cause offense against somebody else. And then some people, you don't want it to stir up to be bigger and escalate into something else. And now you've reopened up a wound just to be rewounded, right? So it's like falling. You fall, you got a scab. And so now you're ready for that scab to heal, but then you fall again and you're reopening. And sometimes it's worse. And if it's not worse, the pain hurt worse, right?
Absolutely.
But just like a wound, it's necessary to clean it out. That's the first thing you do. Your kids fall. Come on, let's go clean it up. Mommy will clean it up and bandage it up, clean it. Because if you don't clean it and you just try to allow for it to heal, infection is going to brew that can spread to other areas in your life. And so it's necessary eventually to get it out, or else it's going to spill over. And so I just wanted to say that because some people take it like, well, I'm tired of going through this. Let me just, I'm tired.
But it would do, it's so,
Put them in their
yeah,
place.
it will, but it will do so much damage, and I like the analogy of a sore, right? Or a boo-boo, because yeah, you do all that first aid, put all that good stuff on there, and iodine, all this other stuff, and peroxide, and get it all fuzzed up and put on the bandage. And then guess what? At one point, you got to take the bandage off and let it get the air, right? The scar doesn't look good. It's still looking kind of, white or whatever from all the stuff you put on it, but it needs to heal, and healing has to take place.
And it's
not going to happen behind bandages. It's not going to happen behind being covered up. It's going to eventually, if you don't, it will get infected, and it will, and it'll be a more bigger scar or bigger thing than it needed to be. So
let me just say, I used to have a reoccurring eye abrasion. And I always talk about it. I talked about it in my book. I always talk about it. But it goes with emotions, right? What we do. And I think, God just created us so awesomely. And so my eye will always, the abrasion, the sore will open up, because your eye heals from the outside in, not from the inside out, right? And so when it looked like, because that's what we do, we look as if everything's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as I wake up, I got big eyes. As soon as I wake up, rub my eye, it's reopen, right? As soon as I forget to put my eye drop in to lubricate, and I wake up in the morning, I could blink, and my cut is reopened. Because again, it heals from the outside in. And that's what we do a lot of times. We allow for ourselves to heal from the outside so then it can start to look good for people, and then try to work on the inner side.
Because we think we got a lot of time.
But the truth of the matter is that it's not working. It doesn't work out like that. Your camera just went off.
I'm back.
Yeah. So it's kind of like we have to work on our, y'all know, this real life 101, y'all. Real life 101. I ain't know if y'all heard the music in the back. I'm like, how am I talking about the Lord in all I hear
something else came on.
All I hear is rap music in the back.
Real life, real time.
I told y'all, I said, y'all come on this podcast until the Lord bless me. I got an office, I got to put it together. But until it gets finished being put together, we just deal with real life issues. Last time, a couple weeks ago, it was the washing machine. This time it was the rap music. But I was like, when the song started dropping some F words, I was like, let me call them real quick. Y'all know it's real life 101 here on releasing my secret, right? Because that's just what happens. And I'm a mom, and I'm a trauma recovery coach, and that was disrupting my normalcy of life.
Welcome to my world, right?
Y'all got kids, and I learned that. I frequent on Clubhouse a lot, and I come across a lot of moms who are ministers or pastors. They better listen. My kids in the background listen. It's just what it is. And y'all may not have heard it, but I'm like trying to talk, right? And I'm like stuttering and stuff. So I just wanted to say that, put that little disclaimer in. But exactly, it's just kind of like the up and out. And I think that's what
and
it
that's
is.
it. And that process, right? We say that part, that part, up and out. And it got to come out. It just really got to come out. And so So here's the little thing. If we try to hold it in and try to mask it, it's been proven it's going to come out at the worst time, right? At the opportune time when you just really don't want to go on this tantrum. I think you called it unleashing, a lashing, or
I
a
call it the
vent,
red flags. Yeah,
or a
the
vent,
lash out. Yeah, they're gonna lash
the
out.
lash out, the vent. Because what happens triggers, and you know that as a trauma recovery coach, there's certain triggers, right? Even though you think you're in a good place with the trauma or what you've been through and you've beyond that point, but there are certain triggers that can come along the way in conversation, being in a certain environment, being around a certain kind of, community that will recall what happened, or something will trigger. And we got to learn how to use our self-regulators. We have to learn how to push past through that. But some people haven't even identified that this is a problem, right? And they think I'm good, I can do it. But the reality is you're not there yet. And so until we're able to kind of get this out, and it is what it is, like I say it, and now the journey begins. Because I'm in a new space now. Prior to me releasing it, I spent lots of time and energy hiding it. So now I have to learn, like you said, one-on-one, right? How do I live in this new space of me releasing? First of all, my circle of friends or circle of people that I encounter, they don't know this new person, right? They don't know this person that just kind of lets it out.
Yeah.
Right? They're like, well, wait a minute. Have you talked to her lately?
Where
Yeah,
did
she
come
got a
from?
lot to say.
What?
Yeah.
Where did it come from?
Yeah, I've been about her. I've been about her all these years. Who knew?
What I've learned in my walk is that I don't let offense linger.
Absolutely.
And I take that in my whole life. So it was times where I was at work, and my boss, she had got a new boss, and I worked very close with her, but I was kind of like her right hand, but I did her right hand work, if that makes sense, right?
Oh, I understand.
But I did the work, right?
I understand.
So when the new boss came in and they introduced me, this is Teresa, she don't really do nothing.
Oh.
This man don't know me. So if that was a joke, it wasn't funny, right? And so I called her into the conference.
Excuse me, is that what you did?
I said, can we have a meeting in the conference room? She said, sure. I said, listen, now everybody don't got to do it like this. This is how I just did it, because I was still learning. It was my beginning stages. I said, I'm a faith-based person. I believe in the Lord and part Christendom. Yeah. I said, well, the Bible tells me if anybody offends me, that I shouldn't do nothing else.
Did you go straight to the Bible?
I did. I did. And I said, you offended me when you said da 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 da. She said, I did not mean it like that. I said, but I have to tell you because I took offense. And instead of me walking around with a chip on my shoulder, I needed to get clarity, because he does not know me. He just started. And so when your introduction of me is she don't do nothing in a group full of everybody that's on the team, I was offended. Mm-hmm. And so she apologized. No, I didn't mean like she apologized. But that's how I started my journey. Now I just be like, listen, I don't understand. I won't allow offense to linger into my space.
And that's growth. That's
that
growth.
comes with a lot of boundaries, right? Mm-hmm. Because I won't allow just anything into my personal space. So I deal with people constantly, but I set boundaries for how I deal with people. And a lot of people don't understand me because of that. They feel like I'm too nice. They feel like and it's not that. I'm just not I'm not aggressive in nature. I try to be very prayerful and strategic on what to do and how to do it. And so I'm not confrontational. And so I avoid certain things that I feel like is going to cause me to be offended and put me in a bad space of I'm gonna be having to repent, and you ain't worth me repenting over. I just be having to think like, is it worth it? Are you worth it? Is it worth it?
So, my journey is a little different because by nature, I am very confrontational.
Is that all your
And
authentic self, or is that?
no, my authentic self is very confrontational. That's who I am. I own it. But because of that little thing or that big thing you were just talking about, repenting, I understand that if I go there, I got a long way to get back to fix it, right? And so what happens now, the maturity, and when you were talking, as you were talking, I was saying growth. The growth has to happen, right? Just because I know that about myself, remember we're talking about identifying. I know that about me, I can't allow myself, right, to take the bait or to get caught up into these scenarios where I really have to walk in a discernment. Because I know I'm willing to address it. When just because I'm seeing it doesn't mean I have to answer every call. I thought, shots fired. I need to deal with that. I hear a call coming and I need to answer it. And growth happens when you see the players, you see what's trying to form, but it won't prosper. And that's the growth, because it really isn't my fight. It's not my fight. But all this time I thought I needed to be heard and let them know that I know what's going on. But the reality or the growth that has to happen, and it's still a journey, it really is. But that your temperament, like I have said over the years, I understand the power. I started this whole conversation about loving who I am as a woman, loving being feminine, love everything about that. I would never have been a part of the feminine thing, because I understand what it is to be a woman in a relationship. And when a man is really there, I can submit. I don't have a problem with that word submit. I really don't. Because I know as a woman, I know how God created me. I can be cunning, I can get what I need to get done. And so I'm okay with that. But I also understand how women can be, because I'm a woman. And because I know how manipulative and how women have 1,000 words to men 10 words, right? And how we can just create situation scenarios. I think because I was so aware of that very early on, I took the position, I ain't fooling with them. And a lot of my confrontations was not with men, it was with women, and so a lot of times I didn't have those kinds of relationships, and that was by choice. But as I am through this journey now, beginning to avail myself, and as I go on to different clubhouse and different arenas where I can speak to women and pour into women and share with women and stuff like that, I'm loving this space. And I never thought I would, because I'm like, God, I don't do well with situations like this. I think I'm being punked, but no, it's about developing in spite of, God used you being very gentle and very patient. And then he used that person that's very confrontational. That person is really in your face, wanting you to own it and all of that. But he uses that to show us how to maneuver through certain situations.
Because I got some people that call me. I'm like, God, is your grace really sufficient?
Yes, it is. So we all either, so here's the thing.
Don't talk about your one
We
member.
both are being what? Right? We both are being stretched and developed, because I'm over here saying the same thing. You know, God, your grace. God, I'm about, no. And I'm learning. And it is a journey. It is a rewarding journey. I don't want to say it's gradually, because I'm telling you, when you learn so much more about yourself, I don't want to speak for you, but I can speak for me. If you had told me, even to be on a podcast, talking about some of my vulnerabilities, right? Because again, I started off by saying I spent years saying I'm good, you good? Because I'm good. But
we all do that.
I know.
We all do.
Know.
And I was talking to Pastor the other day, and he said that that's the automatic response. How you doing? I'm good. Because very few people really call to authentically ask you, how are you, for you to give them an authentic answer. And so
Right.
for us, and that's really just paraphrasing, but and that's what we do. Somebody will call, somebody will say something, or you're in the store, and girl, I ain't seen you in a long time. How you doing? I'm doing good, you're doing good. Ain't nobody gonna stop and say, listen, my dad died. I had this problem, I was at school, I got it. Nobody, you don't want to talk about it. They don't want to hear it, not at that moment. But then you do have the people who bona fide sincerely call you and go, how are you? It's very rare. So I think in our minds, and even then, when you get that sincere, bona fide phone call, how you doing? I'm good. Because it's like, what you coming up with next? Your mind starts churning. What you want? Why you bothering
me? You ain't been asking me what.
You're like, yeah, like, why you bothering me? I ain't in the mood. I ain't in the mood. You be like this. I ain't in the mood. You like that your phone like, what's the next? What's the next text? What's going on? I don't really want to know. Anyway, but I say that because that's what we do, like we are very hushed people. Again, it goes back to the silence, because and that's why we finding now people. So
I'm sorry to cut you. Do you think that is like a safety? We feel that we are protecting ourselves, like a protector type thing? Because I'm thinking we have situations, and I know you see it as a trauma coach, where there were situations they were environment where other people muted them. But what I'm hearing you speak now, it's like, so we get conditioned to that. And even when those factors are not a part of our life now, we silence our own self. We immediately retreat. And we even, I hear people, I was speaking to someone just on yesterday, and they were like, I'm just going to, I'm taking down my social media. I'm just not going to be around anybody. I'm just going to be to myself. And it really was based on someone posting something, right? And so they just checking out on all factors, right? I'm just going, and I wanted to say, because you know me, I was about to say, so basically you're going into depression. Because if they said, I'm going to take a break off of this, and I'm going to be doing some, I'm going to start walking. I'm going to be, I'm going to be doing some things outside. I'm going to write my book. No, they said they're going to be in a room by themselves, not talking to anybody. They just described depression.
Not necessarily. I wouldn't necessarily say that.
Okay. Tell me, because immediately I went there, because I'm like,
I think that because people are trying to hone so much into mental health right now. Okay. A lot of times they are labeling things as depression and oppression, and they're being labeled. I think everybody, if you get a psych exam, they go on label you as bipolar. Let me say that.
Okay.
And I say that because I know people who was like, you can go to this clinic down the street, go talk to this, they're gonna say you bipolar. I think anybody who really had a true psych exam, they would say everybody was bipolar. Because people have
Oh,
mood swings.
oh,
Some days I'm happy, some days I'm not. Some days because it's on the surface of things. So, but back to what you were saying, when I would go through something and it just seemed too much with people and opinions, I would close down. And so a lot of people still remember me from that. Even, my godparents, they'll say, oh, TC must be going through something because we ain't hear from her. But we know when she finished, she'll be back around. And it wouldn't normally be a depression. It would be like let me tune off all the distractions. I gotta grind, right? Because I got something going on and I can't have nothing to distract me. So I speak to the people that I need to speak to. If I need to speak to somebody, other than that, I don't give other people access to me and I just grind until I come out of a situation. Was I depressed? No, I just became superly focused.
okay.
But someone else would say.
I could see that.
And I'm not saying that with everybody.
In there, I could see that though. But when they were just what they were describing, just maybe just in the heat of that moment, I immediately went there like, okay, because I'm ready to rebuttal. I'm in coach mode now, right? I want to inspire you not to retreat. And then I often share too, just my temperament is, yeah, we're gonna grind and you're not gonna, again, I was hearing them, I was seeing where I thought it was going, but I was still stuck on all of this because of a post. So because I'm not moved by stuff like that, I couldn't resonate with it. I'm like, I'm about to start saying, okay, so you make a post and we keep it moving,
And sometimes you have
yeah.
to, because a lot of people are like that, especially now. This is the age we live in. People are moved by social media. So we have to look at it from a different perspective. Even though we could go, it's just a post. But posts have changed people's lives. You
Absolutely.
can do something, right?
Absolutely.
That's how, movements have been started, protests have been started. So many things have been started from a post. And so even though we look at it because I'm not old school, but I'm old school. You're like, oh, so it's just a post. I've seen things and I've been like, you know what? I'm about to just delete my page because I don't feel like, because I know that was about me. Now I'm like, let me delete that heifer. Excuse me.
Did that come out?
It wasn't a curse word. I ain't lose my church card. I'm like, let me delete them. So I don't gotta see them. And if I don't want to delete you, let me unfollow you. So then I won't see what you post. Because I can't allow for.
I had my experience, my 1 or 2 experience. I had my experience where I was like, this person was, I had my first social media fight. And I was like, why are they doing this? Because I'm about to call. I was trying to get their phone number to call them. And because I was like, what is this? And then someone older than me said to me, so don't unfollow them. I said, oh, well, that's a thought, because I didn't even think about that because I just didn't know how to process that. And so, so any other fight I've had, I just know what to do.
Yeah, but some people that's, older people, they be like, listen, I ain't even gonna friend you. You send me a friend request, honey, let me check out your page for a little. That's how people used to do, older people. Let me look at your page a little bit and let me see what you do. They from old school church to social media, right? Let me see your lifestyle first before we become friends.
And you see, and that's they, believe me, they are helping me. Some of the older ones is like, I see you on, my husband said, I see you on that book face. Okay.
Even if they don't got a page, they still see.
Yeah, I see you on that thing. Mm-hmm. You do a lot of talking and you be changing your hairs and stuff, and you be going places. I see you.
Let me check you out on that foot
before I make you my friend. Exactly.
It's just so. And that's just how culture, I tell people all the time, when we had our conversation and we was talking about women entrepreneurs.
Yes.
And we were talking about, we've been all over the place today, but we were talking about then how people see things. Yes. And how they perceive that that's really what it is because how they see it. And I tell people a lot of times, you can't look at my social media and be like, oh, I know what she doing. Because yeah, I post my boxing videos, but I quit about 10 times, y'all. Those don't be the clips that y'all see. Sometimes I post it because I'm a real person and I have to be my authentic self. But ask my coach, all of them. I got about 3 of them. I'll be like, listen, I'm quitting, I'm done. But people see your progress. They're like, oh, you getting it? I'm like, you don't even know what it took me to get
but they don't really, and you said a lot right there.
Look, you don't know what it took me.
And we are being our authentic self. This is not even, and
that's just like somebody walking up to you and saying, we about to take a picture. We about to take a film. Y'all are, let me tell something real quick.
Okay.
And I know we tapping into time, so I have to start. Okay. But when I got married, I was so mad. We were arguing. We were arguing before we left the house. And we got married. We left. You may kiss the bride, all this good stuff. We left. We got back home and we kept arguing over laundry, right? But the pictures, we look happy as pie.
Is that wonderful?
But I say that because it goes back to the mask that we put on.
Absolutely.
And so I would say to that is that we have to be very mindful that the mask that you put on you is the same mask that somebody else can have on them.
So true.
And so when they offend you, sometimes you have to look beyond what they're saying, how they're saying it, and listen to what they're saying. Sometimes you have to think. Customer service, you go to a supermarket, you're like, they got horrible service. Like, and somebody wrote this one, I wish McDonald's would get new people and just give me my food. But you don't know what they came from. And now I gotta say, hi, may I take your order? And then you might be demanding stuff, because we get there, we got all these facts. I go to Wendy's and be like, I don't want American cheese, I want God cheese, can you please extra onions, can you? And so they might have came from a controlling situation at home, domestic violence controlling, that's their only out, and now you're controlling them there. Now, granted, that might not be the best job for them, but that might be the only thing that they can get. And sometimes you have to watch just your demeanor. And that's really just what I want to say, because they might have on a mask and they may look happy. Their mask may be cracked and they may be exposing something that's showing a little bit of attitude. They're a little snippy, right? And so sometimes you have to say, well, maybe they're having a bad day today. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's just not a good day for them, right? Because a lot of times we put on masks and sometimes they might just need a smile. I called up the Board of Education today and I was calling to find out some information. They said, hi, such speaking. I said, hey, good out. They said, hey. I said, great afternoon. So how are you? How is your day going? And it throws them off instantly. Mm-hmm. It's going good. How may I help you? And then you have a conversation, because you never know how someone's day is going. Mm-hmm. And so we have to be mindful of that, right? Mindful that the same mask that you may have on because you're still releasing is the same mask that somebody else might be wearing because they're still releasing. And so that may not be, just like you may not be revealing your authentic self, they might not be revealing their authentic self because they're going through something. And so when you look at it like that, offense won't happen so easy because we're being mindful of the overall picture. And we still have something that we're trying to accomplish. But if I allow for offense to rise up in me, which puts them on defense, we're not going to accomplish anything because we're going against each other and we're not accomplishing a goal. And so I really just wanted to say that. And I think this is a great segue. I always say that I never want anyone to come on this podcast and to leave and say, now what? Okay, now they just told me to empty it out, pour it out, take off my mask, put on my mask, be mindful. Right? And it's kind of like going to church. Yeah, it's going to church and you hear a sermon, you get different texts, and then you get different bullet points. And then they go, all right, we're going home. And you're like, well, where's the application at? What am I supposed to do? And so I absolutely love a call to action, because this is the point where you, as my guest, can give a call to action to our listeners, our viewers on today, as God leads you, and just give them that action that you feel led to give them. So I'm going to hush up now so you can give your call to action.
So we said a lot. We really said a lot, and we just were having a conversation. And one of the wonderful things is that the conversation, though the Zoom may end or the podcast will end, but the conversation can continue. But the conversation will start with you. And it begins by identifying first who you are. And that's a big mouthful, but being okay with pointing out something that's really great going on with you, that you recognize, I'm an awesome mom, I'm a good friend, I'm a good sister. Start with that. And even if you are not perfect, and no one is expecting anyone to be perfect, that's who you are. And so it starts there. And then after I've identified, I'm a wife, I'm a girlfriend, I'm a sister, I'm a single, I'm an awesome single woman or a single man, or whatever, whatever state you find yourself in, right? Be content. And so when I find, and then you recognize who I am and what my space is. I appreciate it. I own it. That's who I am. Then we talked about releasing and just letting it out. And that looks different for a lot of people, because our experiences, though they have some similarities, we're all different, right? And we have different processes. So, but it begins by allowing and being okay to release and begin this journey. If anything was said, if there could be, it was so much said, but the takeaway or the call to action is, let's begin from this moment forward. Begin to say that I'm going to start letting it out. I'm not going to, I do so much working on the outside, but the inside needs so much work. And so I'm going to begin by getting the things out. And so that I can clearly get a balance in my life. I understand that I'm not in this thing by myself, but I've got to start somewhere. So I've got to start talking. I've got to put myself in situations where it's okay. And I got to be okay with it. So being comfortable in my skin, that alone, is, as you have said, and we have said throughout this discussion, appreciating the freedom and the power of just letting it out. That speaks volumes. And then the last thing I would say about is as best as you can, right? The Bible says it a little bit like this: as much as possible, live peacefully with people, right? Use your words. We tell them in early childhood, use your words, kind words. A soft word, right, turns away wrath. It's okay. Every fight is not your fight. Fix pick and choose your battles.
Mhm.
But understand, just like you need to let it out, and you need to release it, and you need to be your authentic self, that individual that you are encountering may have already started their journey or in desperate need. And so you come in and having this, whatever is going to happen, look how much powerful you would be if you could model to them, you know, a kind word, as it was stated. So I would say to each and every one that would hear this, that start from now saying a kind word. Start from now showing others, modeling for them. Listen, I ain't got this thing figured out, but guess what? I'm going to show you how I'm doing it. And maybe you'll get some courage to want to do it as well. And you would want to start letting some things go, letting some things out, letting some things just go, like put in the past and moving forward. So thanks again, Centrisa, Coach Centrisa, releasing the secret. It's so many things that could have been said, but I know that God knows just what needs to be said at the right time, and it's going to accomplish much. None of this is what we're doing is in vain, and it's going to edify. People are just waiting sometimes just to hear it's okay. It's okay that you're not okay. It's okay that sometimes you don't have such an awesome day. I know I could have came and said a lot of affirmations, and I believe in those. I believe in inspiring and speaking well and encouraging people to put on their whole strength. And I stand by that. But I think just what we did on today, just being transparent and being vulnerable, even in our tone, because I'm here talking about, yeah, I'm aggressive, I'm assertive. And they're like, she has like a really, I promise you, I can get very loud. However, that's not the order. Yeah, that's not the order of the day. The order of the day is not even about that. It's about really being a balance, right? And really being who we are. And that is a child of God. That is someone that believes in that we have to be people of faith, right? And that we have to speak these things into existence. And so that's my little tidbit. That's my call to action. That's my tips on how we can start this journey. I want you to know that those that will listen, that though I'm sharing this, my journey continues. We are in this together. And even though we are going at different momentums and different paces, that God knows the plans he has for us, and his plan is good, it is not evil, and it has an expected end. So once again, I want to thank you. What an awesome opportunity to share just what we are, you know.
And so, and that's the key. And that's the key surrounding releasing my secret. I always say is amplifying, your voice one story at a time. That's our motto. And so many times we've had people come over on the show and say, I've never shared this before. I don't even know why I'm sharing it. But I believe because it's a safe space.
Can you take that part out about my grandmother? No, I'm only joking.
And so people say that because, they always come in and they share that. And so I appreciate that the platform provides a level of trust, right? And that you trust not only myself as the host, but you trust our audience that what you're pouring out to them that will be utilized for the good and for growth and for strength. And so I thank you again for coming on tonight. It's been an awesome conversation. And so I know that you said that you were a coach and, you were a minister or elder of the Lord's church, as you would normally say. And so how can everyone contact you? How can they get in contact with you, follow you, look for you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm in the process of really rebranding some things, but currently my email is Lydia Peart 25 at gmail.com. I'm also on Facebook under my business, LP Consulting. You can also find me on Instagram, and I'm in those clubhouse streets. You can come and just we can connect that way. I'm currently looking to do some other things on social media. So if you follow me, I'll be definitely be able to update you on some of the things that's coming down the pike. But again, thanks again. I look forward to viewing this podcast and also viewing others and just seeing how people are coming on and just being their authentic self.
Yes, yes. And I absolutely love it. Every week I get full. I, I think if I was part of the old school church, I'd be like, I'm getting fuller and fuller and fuller. They put an ER on everything. That's all.
Because
I'll start a whole new conversation. I'm even gonna go there with y'all. Y'all like saying, she said, we done been on, we done listened. I understand. I don't want you to have to pause it and come back. And, I want y'all to be able to listen to the episode fully. But that's what they used to say, fuller and fuller and fuller. All right. So anyway, so very briefly, is there anything else that you would like to say before we close out?
I think we said enough. Again, this will not be the last time that I will come on to speak. I know, just because there's so much that needs to be released. But I do want to say that I believe in what you're doing. I believe in the power of giving space and creating an environment where people can just get it out. And I know people have penned it and different ones are, there's so many books about it. But the fact that trauma recovery, right? Whoever thought of that, right? I can say that maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I never even heard of what that was. But I understand the great need for this. And so whatever platforms that God, opens up for you in regards to this, I'm just looking forward to hearing the testimonials, hearing the feedback, hearing how it has really impacted lives. Yeah. So that's my final. That's my final.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Y'all know I get silly sometimes. We run over. I be trying to be calm. Y'all know I will crack up. I done broke myself in the first couple episodes. Talking about I got a book with y'all because I had some great coaches on here. But I'm so appreciative. Thank you again for coming on. Thank you everybody for tuning in. This is another great episode on a Wednesday night. And that you thought it not robbery just to come in and chill out with us for like a whole hour. Just talking about real life stuff, right? As we release our secret, one story at a time, we amplify our voice one story at a time. And so if this has touched you, somebody else, somebody else can relate to it, please like, share, comment. Please leave some reviews so we can know how you're enjoying the show. I just wanted to put that plug in there real quick. And other than that, you guys, listen, I will see you all on next week, Wednesday, 8:00 Eastern Standard Time, same place, same time. I will see you here. And remember, as always, as I always say, healing does not mean that the trauma never existed. It means that the trauma no longer controls your life. Thank you again for coming in. Thank you again, Lydia, and have a great evening, everybody.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.